Welcome to the Soul Archaeology Podcast, a space for connection, resonance, witnessing, and learning. Together we'll harvest medicine from the spiral of life, sharing conversations with other embodied humans who have navigated their own initiations and found alignment with their true soul essence. With weekly astrology, energy updates, embodied conversation, and channeled teachings, this is a space for you to land and find resonance with the spiral of your own soul. Hello there, welcome back to Soul Archaeology. I talked a lot last week about the Mars Cazimi in Scorpio, the Scorpio new moon, and we've been in the thick of Scorpio energy for a while now, almost a month. And we're moving into a pretty big energy shift this week, which I think will be very welcomed by many. As we've been navigating this eclipse portal, moving away from it, integrating the changes, the realizations, the shifts that have been unearthed and that have come forward over the last few months, we went straight into Scorpio season in the middle of the eclipse portal. And we've been really in this underworld journey of having radical self-awareness, honesty, realizations, unearthings from our own internal underworld, but also the collective underworld as well. And the space is very confronting. It can feel quite intense. Scorpio, of course, like I said last week, is the alchemist. It's the shaman. It transmutes and it changes, and that's its evolutionary purpose, why it's here, and what its purpose is within the zodiac. It's to sort of force us into these evolutionary containers to transmute what we need to clear what we need to, and to embody more light, to clear what's there that feels like it's not serving, our evolutionary path, and to embody more light. But that doesn't mean it hasn't been intense. And I've talked to many people who have been feeling just really sort of almost tested over the last few weeks, feeling like they're in a pressure cooker, like they're constantly being asked to feel intense feelings, which of course is also the evolutionary focus of Scorpios too, is to feel everything intensely, to get all the way to the bottom of something, which also includes emotion. But that's been, challenging. It's been intense. It's been essential. So as we are integrating the Mars Cazimi energy too, which, like I mentioned last week, really is a very intense and profound meaning of Mars and the sun, and the intensities of both of those celestial bodies are magnified. So we've been in this sort of magnification of these two energies meeting together and embodying the characteristics of Scorpio in particular. And that is very intentional. Like I spoke last week, I won't go into the energy port around that, but I will say that we will be integrating this through the beginning of this week and shifting into Sagittarius season, into the season of the archer, the gypsy, the scholar, on November 22nd. And then Mars will be moving into Sagittarius on the 24th. So there will be a big shift in this astrological climate, moving out of this sort of what can feel like almost muck or mud of Scorpio, when things can feel a little bit confusing or maybe intense, or there's a lack of clarity, or it feels like things aren't quite moving, but you're kind of stuck in this space of feeling. Sagittarius definitely likes movement. It likes speaking. It likes expression. Both Sagittarius and Scorpio are quite intense signs. They hold sort of an intensity that is driven. And their driving force, of course, is evolution. They're looking to evolve, looking to shift. As we near sort of the end of the zodiac, there's more pressure on the signs to really understand their role and get clear on what it is that they're here to help us do. And with Sagittarius, it's expansion. It's learning through experience. It's taking chances, taking risks, getting your hands dirty, honoring expression. This has been such an inward month, especially as we've been navigating the eclipse time and sort of integrating all the change that has come with that. And we've been really, really deep in the Scorpionic hole to some degree. But what I love is that the highest expression of Scorpio is the phoenix rising from the ashes. So if you think about Sagittarius season following Scorpio, it is in many ways that sort of phoenix rising from the ashes. It's taking the medicine that we've gathered through this underworld journey and applying it, expanding our consciousness, choosing the evolution rather than the regression. So that's something I've really been noticing lately, is that we go through these change portals and we can either choose the evolutionary path or we can choose the ego. We can choose the path of staying safe. And it takes a whole lot of courage to change, a whole lot of courage, because so many parts of us resist change for fear of what it means. There's a lot of unknown held in change. There's a loss of ego held in change. There is so much that's at risk when we admit that things need to change. But there's so much beauty in it. There's so much power in honoring what isn't working so that we can step into what is. And if we don't release what isn't working, we can't create the new pathways or the new systems to create new ways to step into the new timeline. And something with Sagittarius is that it's so deeply expansive, and I'll do a full December energy report as well, but the season of Sagittarius is all about truly expansion. It's all about honoring your voice, your truth, your purpose. It is the higher mind. So it really seeks to destroy sort of the barriers, either physical or metaphorical, energetic, emotional barriers between us and another, between us and other cultures, between, things that would seem as a barrier. And it really wants to understand. Sagittarius learns through experience. It learns through doing. It learns through traveling. And so in 2020, we had the nodes shift from Cancer and Capricorn into Sagittarius in Gemini. And of course, we know how 2020 went. It was wildly transformative, and it really forced us sort of out of our expanded spaces and into our internal spaces. It cleared a lot of dissociation, a lot of running that many people were experiencing or sort of coping with in their lives, and it forced us inward, not even energetically inward, but also physically inward. We were, in our homes, and we were cut off from friends and community and travel. And a lot of what we're looking at now is sort of, how do we stay in this internal space and this external space at the same time? How do we honor our internal landscape and our external landscape? How do we look at things through a wider angle? I think it's easy sometimes to create perhaps dogma, things that we've believed for a really long time, things that have felt perhaps safe to us because they've been, what we've believed for a long time, and they're familiar, and they've kept us safe, and they've kept us, they've guided us through different journeys and along different paths in our lives. But I feel like one of the biggest maturational or evolutionary thresholds we can cross is admitting that maybe what we've believed is not either no longer serving or is no longer in alignment, or maybe never was. And that's such a huge ego death, right? To admit that. But it's also so powerful because it allows space for us to expand. And if we're going to expand, which is what we need to do as humans, we have to do the scary thing, and we have to really look at what we believe and what we're focusing on, and where these things come from. Is it coming from your truth channel, your heart? Or is it coming from programming? Is it coming from something you heard on, a podcast? Or is it coming from something you saw on the news? Or is it coming from an Instagram post, or what a family member said, or is it coming from your childhood, something that you were raised on? Or is it coming from something that you can actually access in this present moment, a truth so deep within you that you can truly feel it emanate through your whole body? And I feel like now more than ever, it's so important to be pulling everything we experience and hear through our own internal truth channel. And this is not about being right or wrong. This is about honoring what's really right and true for you. Because we're all meant to be here, having our own experiences, which create a collective experience. And one of the most powerful signs of maturation and evolution, I think, I kind of touched on this with Stephanie Simbari on our episode together, but is that we can hold ambiguity, we can hold complexity, we can hold nuance, and we can hold the fact that there can be more than one truth, and that they can be conflicting, and that in order for another to be worthy of having an opinion, or to be worthy of being here, or to be a worthy human, or someone who is quote unquote good or bad, or good or evil, whatever we like to apply to things to make it feel more safe for us, is that we have to know that it's okay if they don't believe what we believe, or if they hold a different opinion, or if they have a different viewpoint or a different perspective on something. And this is something with Sagittarius I always really, really appreciate about this sign, is that it really does like to explore and experience things in order to come to conclusions. The shadow of Sagittarius is that it can be dogmatic, and that it can learn and then preach. And so something that's, is important to remember during this time, and I always feel like we have these seasons and these energies and this medicine that comes through exactly when we need it. But it's so important to honor our collective golden thread and our oneness, how we experience each other in this human form is only a part of it, right? We have a connection that's much deeper. And we have a soul blueprint that's completely unique. And we have a family system that's unique to us. We're wired differently. We have lived experiences that shape us in different ways. And we're not all meant to be the same. And if we all believed the same things and we were all wired the same way, we wouldn't be here. It wouldn't work. So as we're in this sort of messy space in between worlds, we're leaving the old paradigm behind, and we're going through this messy process of watching it die and watching what isn't working, and sitting with the discomfort of not quite knowing how to change something that feels so big. I was listening to a podcast this morning that was about, the World Economic Forum and BlackRock, and some of these just monstrous organizations that feel way too big to dissolve, and really are quite dark, and their energetic vibration, and are really seeking to sort of dehumanize our collective, and taking away our uniqueness, and applying sort of a brush stroke to our collective human species and making, everything the same and forcing everyone to live similarly. It's very, very dangerous, because our differences are really what make this human experience rich. But you think about these huge organizations, and I get overwhelmed thinking about how do we even churn this cruise ship? How do we dissolve a corporation like BlackRock, which is extremely dark and extremely powerful? And the truth is, I have to just sit with the discomfort that I have no idea how that happens. And I don't know that anyone else does. And that's a lot to sort of sit with and process. But what I do have is I have this knowing of the bigger picture and why we're here, and that we're here to grow and evolve and shift. And even when I'm way in my ego and, angry and defensive and whatever the thing is, I have the pleasure of having access to my Sagittarius moon, which can zoom out and see where I'm at and why I'm here and what this is trying to teach me. And it's pure gold. But as we sit between these two worlds, we're sitting with the discomfort of course, the fact that we don't have maybe a blueprint, a very specific blueprint, at least, for the new world quite yet. Or I think it's there. It's just we're not privy to it maybe, or we can't see it with our physical eyes, but it's there. And we are sort of staying present and doing everything we can here and now to stay regulated, stay anchored, stay open, stay expanded, to process our wounds in the moment, to sit with our inner child, to sit with our emotions. And that's the most we can do. And within that space, there's once we've sort of really mastered that process, then we can do outreach. Then we can start creating communities and organizations and putting into place the things that we know and see are blueprints for the future, for the new world. But I really invite you during this Sagittarius season to expand, to perhaps spend some time learning about something or someone that you are unfamiliar with. Maybe it's a religion, maybe it's a culture, maybe it's a viewpoint or a political party or whatever it is. I just really encourage each of you listening and myself to spend some time expanding your awareness, which then expands your consciousness. There's so much beauty in gathering information and sitting with it and allowing it to change us. I think that one of the most powerful things we can do is being open to being proved wrong in our beliefs or something we held strongly to. And just being more fluid and flexible. The shadow of Sagittarius is that it's dogmatic, where it's, stubborn in what it thinks, where it thinks that it knows everything because of all its travels and all of its exploration. And I know I've definitely been guilty of that. So I always have to check myself. Am I stuck in a belief because I think I know? And I really think that gray, that nuance, that space where we sort of meet one another and exchange and allow the discomfort of not being the same be okay. We let that change us. We let that confirm our own goodness, our own worthiness, because it's in the gray that we find the medicine. So even if you can't travel to a new place this month, it's a busy month with all of the different holidays, all the different cultural holidays, but even if you can't be in another country or experiencing another culture, taking a plane ride or taking a drive, whatever it is, there's, the internet, which is super helpful to learn about, new cultures and places and religions and political parties. But I encourage you even to step out to, if it feels safe and if it feels in alignment, maybe a gathering or a group of people who are, talking about a specific thing that you have questions about or you're curious about. Maybe it's a, religious gathering, or it's a gathering of a political party, and just observing. You don't even have to participate, but it's really powerful when we strip away all of the bias and all of the barriers and the walls between us and another. We realize that there's a humanness there, and there's wounds, and there's lived experiences that have shaped them to be who they are. So I'm bringing this Sag moon into this episode to just encourage you to expand past what you have done before, to invite in a new perspective, and to cross that barrier, cross that line, because in that space, not only is it healing for you, not only is there an expansion of consciousness for you, but it happens for the other person. Even if they can't admit it or see it in the moment, it happens. And that's how we heal the world. So it's no big deal, right? I also know for many of you, the last few months, this last quarter, or even last 6 months have felt perhaps a little obscure, a little muddy. And that has been really the medicine of the retrogrades, of the scorpionic energy we've been in, of this sort of pulling back, the retrograde, Venus retrograde, and all the other retrogrades that we've been experiencing. And with the Sagittarian energy, there's definitely this injection of life force, of fire, of flame to initiate. And it will be super, super helpful in perhaps expanding your awareness around what is possible for you to create, dreaming about what it is this next chapter looks like, and just being open, right? Being expanded to what's possible. That's really what I encourage you to embody as both the Mars and Sun move into Sagittarius this week, and we start to open up more and more. We are headed towards a Mercury retrograde in December, from December 13th through the new year, January 1st. So we kind of have that interesting retrograde energy as we enter into the new year again. But this time from now until the 13th, we're entering the shadow soon, but it's really a space to just be open, to observe, to witness, to provide space for exactly what wants to come through, the next move to come through. And that's really in alignment with the oracle card that I pulled for today. And I promise at some point I'm going to pull from a different deck, but I just love the Untamed Elemental deck, and I just keep feeling called to it over and over and over again. I feel like it's sort of like the deck for the podcast. But it's cool because I pulled the Star card, which is all about divine guidance. He adorns the indigo night like the phosphorescent pearls, transforming a directionless abyss with his radiating pinpoints of supernatural guidance. Stars' embroidered constellations are the embodiment of self-reliance, helping you navigate towards your own bright future. Star appears when the path is obscured and you need a nudge in the right direction. When you ask for the guidance, the universe will certainly answer. Listen and look for the clues that are offered. There is always a way through. Spend time under the stars at night and let them remind you that you are a beloved member of the cosmos, one who shines among many. When it's balanced, you're able to discern true guidance. Imbalanced, pulled in myriad directions. And to bring into balance, reconnect with the sun cycle, wake up at dawn, and keep your day flowing organically without hesitation. And this one was definitely for me. I don't know if any of you have been feeling, perhaps scattered, or feeling like you have a million things to do and there's not enough time in the day. Time has felt very squeezed, and that's been me lately. So maybe this is for me too. Well, I know it's for me, is for sure. I know we're always tuning into the same channel. So it's definitely for me, and hopefully for some of you too, if you're feeling like you needed that. I hope it resonated. And thank you all for being here. Thank you so much. I wanted to mention that my mentorship is open for 2024, which is so exciting. I've made a few structural changes and it just feels really good. And I feel like the people I've been speaking to about working together intimately in 2024 are just so in alignment, and I'm so excited to work with them. I have a few spaces left. So if you're interested in working together one-on-one, the mentorship will be linked in the show notes. You can also find it on my website, on my Podia, on my link tree on Instagram. So my mentorship program is the most intimate way to work together. We work monthly together. We have bi-weekly sessions, Voxer support. You have access to my group work for free, which is great. Anytime I host a workshop or a new moon, full moon circle, you get it for free, which I'm planning to do monthly in 2024, which is exciting. I'm very excited about that. And we have Voxer support in between. So it's a very powerful container that is really meant to walk you through a big change portal, a time of transition, change, evolution, an evolutionary or quantum leap. If you're feeling perhaps a bit directionless, or you're feeling like you're in the initiation and you're not quite sure what the medicine is there for you, I love to be a guide in that space. I also just really love connecting with like-minded revolutionary women, and I've been working with some men lately too, which is super fun, but who are passionate about embodying their power, their purpose, who are ready to step into this new timeline more aligned with self. And I feel like my clients are so badass. They always keep me in line. Like people I work with, I'm like, man, they're doing it and they're in it and they're on it. And it inspires me to do that work as well. So if you are interested in that, I have a few spaces left for January, and it's a 3-month minimum to work together. And I have people that I've worked with for 3 months, 6 months, 2 years, 3 years, whatever it is. It's so wonderful. And it's my favorite way to connect besides this podcast, which I love too. So anyway, I hope all of you have a beautiful week. I hope this was helpful and resonated for this week. I will be doing some interviews in December, and of course, keeping up with the energy reports through the holidays, because I know that it's a big time. So if you don't mind leaving a review, a rating, sharing on Instagram, it truly means the world. I know I've said this every episode, but it really does. And when I meet with people and they say they listen to the podcast, it goes straight to the heart. So thank you so much. Have a beautiful week, and I'll talk to you soon.